What would you do if a seemingly glamorous royal marriage turned into a living nightmare? Manohara, whose name means thief of hearts in Sanskrit, was once an Indonesian model who captured the hearts of both Malaysians and Indonesians with her stunning beauty, and also caught the eye of a powerful Malaysian prince. However, a story that started out as a fairy tale soon became a terrifying journey, filled with abuse, imprisonment, and unimaginable suffering. This young woman's life took a dark turn you wouldn't expect. But first off, let's look into her background. And, well, she was born on the 28th of February 1992 in Jakarta, Indonesia, and her life was preordained to be glamorous. Her father is an American civil engineer of European origin named George Mans, while her mother is an Indonesian woman by the name of Daisy Faharina, who divorced when she was still as young as 2 years. And so, Manohara was raised by her mother and lived in France before moving back to Indonesia in 2006. Her black and Amerindian features made her very attractive, for which she was often noticed. Before she reached the age of 14, she had been discovered by talent scouts, and she was now modeling. Her presence grew fast, and in December 2006, she was listed as one of the most valuable women in Indonesia by Harper's Bazaar Indonesia. Just before her 15th birthday, an invitation from Malaysia's Deputy Prime Minister, Najib Razak, would change everything. It was at a dinner in Kuala Lumpur that she crossed paths with Prince Muhammad Fakhri, a member of the Kelantan royal family. Fakhri wasn't just any prince. He was the son of Sultan Ismail Petra, the 28th Sultan of Kelantan. This royal family particularly had the tradition of links with beautiful females and wedlock to famous personalities. For instance, Fakhri's older brother, Prince Muhammad Faiz, married a stunning Swedish lady in 2019 when they met, although they had an age difference of 13 years. The other was Sultan Muhammad V, Fakhri's older brother, who married a Russian model and beauty queen only for the marriage to hit the rocks after 1 year. But these stories were dwarfed by what Manohara was to do, which would trigger scandals that would affect not only Malaysia, but the entire world. For a young girl of 14, Manohara possessed beauty that left a desirable image on Fakhri's heart, which led him into making a decision to make her his wife. By August 2008, despite significant challenges like the absence of a legal witness, wali nikah, and missing documentation from the Indonesian embassy, the marriage went ahead. On August 26th, 16-year-old Manohara became Tengku Fakhri's wife in a modest ceremony, joining the Kelantan royal family and earning the title of Che Puan. She was soon attending functions in business as the wife of a prominent business magnate, always accompanied by her husband, and was loved by the public for her beauty and elegance. However, as she appeared to be living the royal life in the palace as the princess, there was much truth that did not tally with the fairy tale life. Only 2 months later after the wedding, there were first signs of the breakdown of this happy fairy tale. Manohara, who was desperate and scared, attempted to come back home to her parents, telling them that her husband was abusing her. However, her cries were unheard, and rather than offering her protection, she was returned back to the palace. Despite Fakhri's efforts to woo his lady love, he continued to pursue her further by showering her with gifts such as a car and even taking her and her mother on a trip to Saudi Arabia to perform Umrah. However, that changed shortly after they went back home. Fakhri returned to Malaysia with Manohara, but this time her mother did not accompany them. The next 9 months of her life were spent in her bedroom. Effectively, she became a prisoner in the palace. Whenever she expressed her concern, she was given injectable sedatives, with which she was subdued into submission. Even scarier, she was administered what was referred to as the pregnancy drug, which should facilitate pregnancy and the resultant weight gain. Her life became a vicious circle of suffering, being abused day by day and having to smile during official meetings and public appearances, since if she looked unhappy, she would be tortured. In fear, Manohara tried several times to escape from the terrorizing husband, but she failed and was forced to spend her nights in a helpless situation. However, it was in May 2009 that Manohara was given the opportunity that she had been so eagerly waiting for quite some time now: the escape. Her husband's father, Sultan Ismail Petra, was taken ill, and the whole family had to travel to Singapore for a medical checkup. Fakhri was too engrossed in the illness of his father, and that was the opportunity Manohara required. Taking advantage of the opportunity during the journey in a Singapore hotel, she pressed a panic button found inside the lift, thereby calling the attention of security guards. Thanks to them and the US Embassy interference, Manohara made her very brave escape. She ran away to Changi Airport and, amazingly, managed to get back to Indonesia. The once joyous and sexually attractive young woman came down looking utterly exhausted and weak. She posed for photos with bruises on her body and told heart-rending stories of sexual confinement by the Malaysian royalty. Manohara claimed that she had been cut with razors, injected with drugs, and suffered all sorts of unthinkable harm. She stood up and spoke out about the abuses in the royal palace, where she said that she had been raped, abused, and tortured every day. She said she was given injections of drugs that made her spill blood in the vomit and was always on guard, locked up in the bedroom. She even told the reporters, "I am still traumatized by all that happened, and it has left a deep impact on me." This is just days after her daring escape in Singapore. Sexual abuse and harassment were like a daily routine for me. He forced himself on me every time I refused. I could never imagine a normal man doing such things, she said, her voice breaking as she recounted the details. She even added, "Some parts of my body were cut by a razor." As for the response, Prince Fakhri, who was just 31 at the time, categorically refuted all the allegations and proceeded to file a police report to this extent. But little did they know that this escape of Manohara was just the initial ring of a big storm. Her mother, Daisy Faharina, immediately leapt into this role, insisting on justice for the 31-year-old prince for the terror that her daughter went through. From the start, Daisy didn't hold back when it came to blaming both the Malaysian and Indonesian governments for what she perceived to be a conspiracy to hush up the abuse. She said, "The fears that I've had for so long have come to be true. Manohara has been physically abused. She has several razor cuts on her chest." According to Daisy, her pleas to see her daughter had been blatantly ignored by the Malaysian government, which even went as far as blocking her from entering the country. The Indonesian embassy, on the other hand, had assured her that Manohara was doing just fine with her new husband. But the reality was far from the picture they painted. Now, the legal warfare that ensued tilted the scales heavily in favor of Prince Fakhri, primarily because the war was played out in Malaysia, a country where Prince Fakhri had strong political connections. Manohara faced a grim reality. If she went back to make her defense in the Malaysian courts, she could be seized and again be a slave for the rest of her life. Watching the court trials in a country where she was already an underdog could have bolstered a legal process that she thought was biased. It was logical and rational for her to stay away, and indeed, it was a wise thing to do. As a matter of fact, it was Manohara who decided to turn the tables around, and dared Prince Fakhri to press charges in her home Indonesian soil, where he would have no leverage to determine the outcome. But in the Malaysian courts, the verdict was severe. Manohara was told to go back to her husband, and to refund the approximate 1 million ringgit she was purported to have borrowed from him. Her husband sued her in her absence, and the court dismissed her claims without her presence, then declared her a darhaka and nuisius, and stripped her of any claim she might have had on the marriage. Later on, the court ultimately dismissed Manohara's argument that the 1 million ringgit was a gift from Tengku Muhammad Fakhri, largely due to her absence throughout the proceedings. For Fakhri, this case was never about the money. He insisted it was about restoring his dignity and reputation, claiming that the allegations of physical and sexual abuse were baseless and had been designed to tarnish his name in the eyes of royalty, the government, and the public. With the court ruling in his favor, Fakhri sought to clear his name. However, Manohara's mother, Daisy Faharina, stood firm. She made it clear that their family was prepared to face the consequences of defying the court order, even if it meant Manohara would lose her title as Chik Puan Temengang Kelantan. They refused to repay the so-called 1 million ringgit debt, believing that justice was not served. So far, 15 years have passed since those tumultuous events, and life has taken a different turn for Manohara. She has returned to Indonesia, where she's rebuilt her life, far from the shadows of the Kelantan Palace. Today, Manohara is a passionate animal and environmental conservation activist, using her platform to speak out against the wealthy who keep wildlife as pets. She's also resumed her career as a model and fashionista, continuing to make a name for herself on her own terms. Now back to you. If you found yourself in a similar situation, what would you have done? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.